shooting on film, you need a lot of light. Hey, what's up guys? My name's Chris Ajtony. I'm a local cinematographer in Vancouver. I'm gonna be breaking down a short film that I shot earlier this year on 16mm film called Chile.
Ella estaba aquí sin papeles. Se fue sola para tenerte. Ella estaba determinada en que tú crecieras en este país.
So this is actually one of my favorite shots of this entire short film. And I think it's very simple, but I think it's my favorite because when you're shooting on 16mm film and you're like looking through the viewfinder, you're not looking at like the accurate image. So you're relying on your skills with your light meter and like your imagination and the tools that you have to hopefully get the image that you're thinking of. And so like the story's supposed to take place in like the 60s or 70s. And so it really fit that story and that vibe, and it was a very gritty story. And so this still, or this part of the film, looks exactly how I imagined it would turn out. And I was really stoked on how the scans came out. We shot on 500T stock, which is 500 ISO or ASA tungsten stock. And the reason for that was because I knew I wanted to play with all this like moonlight, this beautiful like blue moonlight wash on the house here. We used daylight fixtures to basically create this kind of bluer moonlight kind of wash on the house. And it was actually very simple. It was just like, we had like this beautiful 8x8 ultra bounce over here on the side, and we were pushing, I think it was like 2400 Bs, the Nanlux 2400 Bs into that, and just bouncing and just kind of hitting the house there. And I think we even used some mirror boards really high up on some mambas, just giving these little hard touches here, just to give some like different textures. And we used this like tree that's kind of off to the side over here. And we use that as like foliage just to kind of texture that as well, to break up, you know, the house and give some more texture and not make it so flat. And then I think inside the house, it was super simple. Like, I think we were just playing practicals and it gave this beautiful, like warm glow. And that's like the tungsten stock working its magic. One thing about like shooting on film, you need a lot of light. And that was a big challenge. It's always a big challenge because with film, your shadows are gonna get crunchy really quick. So my rule of thumb is I'm always overexposing 3/4 of a stop at least to a stop. And so if you have like 500 ASA film, I'm exposing for 250 or like 300 or 320 or something like that, right? So yeah, imagine setting your digital camera to 250 ISO at night. There's not gonna be a lot of stuff on your image there. So you need a lot of light. So Nanlux was really kind and they sponsored us down in LA, and they gave us an entire lighting truck. And we were using their 2400 Bs, which is like equivalent to like a 4K, I think. And that gave us the power to like light this entire scene. And it was a big shot, you know, it's like a big wide shot at night, and like just trying to give detail to all these dark spots and like trying to make it feel natural and real was the challenge. So really shaping that light and everything. But I think that's always the challenge with film, is like how much light you need, but it's also so forgiving as well. So I remember when I first started shooting on film, it was like I was so stressed. I was like, oh fuck, like I don't know how this is gonna turn out. But after doing it a couple times, you realize how forgiving it is. So since we were shooting on film, we had a couple challenges, right? We needed bigger fixtures, we needed more light. So that's why I reached out to Nanlux to help us out with this project, because they were coming out with some incredible lights that were like super powerful and like didn't require an immense amount of power to actually run them. So we kind of brought in this new age lighting style of LEDs and stuff to really help keep the speed of, you know, production without having to use like HMIs and things like that. So that was a challenge, needing more light. But I think film is a lot more forgiving. So the approach was a lot more simple, I think. Like we didn't need to overlight. I feel like the film just really handles the highlights so well. So you're not having to like really worry about what's happening outside of a room or like outside of a window and stuff too much. So you know, as long as like you're kind of dealing with your shadows and overexposing and things like that, it was pretty simple. And there's always that pressure because it's not like, you know, digital where you just load it up onto a computer or stuff. I mean, yeah, there's a pressure to that as well for DITs, like things can get deleted or corrupted or whatever, but there is so many more elements that can lead to error with shooting on film. But I think that keeps it exciting. You know, I barely slept on this project because I was always thinking like, oh, did we load that mag properly? Or was it wound up properly? Or like, did anything get exposed or anything like that? So, and also there was no budget to send this right away to like the Daily House or anything like that. So we were holding on to like the exposed film until like the end of the project. So there's always that fear of like, is the footage going to be like ruined or anything? Trust your eye and trust your light meter. And it's actually really interesting. I think one thing that I really love about shooting on film is it separates you from the monitor. And I felt like when I was shooting digital, I got so limited. Had such a limited view, this tunnel vision. I was always looking through a monitor, through 7 inches. And my world was that. But when you shoot on film, you don't really have that anymore. So now you're looking at composition and lighting through your eye, and you start seeing the world in this different kind of light, and it's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful experience. Yeah.
¿Cómo estás? Bien. Tanto tiempo sin verte.
Sí. Gracias por venir.
Sí, claro.
Emilio!
So I think this scene was very, very, very interesting because it seems really simple, right? Like we're tracking this kid through this house and, you know, whatnot, but the setup is absolutely insane. Hold on, sorry. Let me re-say that because I need to get to this gallery thing. Oh, this thing, okay. So this scene was actually really complex to light because the original idea that the directors had was to have this oneer tracking the main character throughout the house, like seeing the different rooms with the different pockets of family during this like funeral. And yeah, we were shooting on 250D stock, so that's 250 ISO. But if you're overexposing by a stop, you're rating at like 100 something, right? So that's a lot of light you need. And the reason why I chose 250D stock was because I wanted the scene to be a little bit warmer. Like the daylight stock has this beautiful warmth to the highlights, and I knew with the location and the scene, it would just fit really well compared to tungsten stock. So I sacrificed having, you know, more, you know, sensitivity from the tungsten stock. So we shot on daylight stock, and you see the camera tracking him down the stairs and then into this living room. And it was a huge setup. I think we used every single light we had because we had to like push light through each window, and we were using the 2400 Bs, and I think we had them on tungsten mode, and they were giving us like equivalent to like a 4K tungsten, which was amazing. And we actually end up in this living room here, and we actually had a book light in this corner with like their sky panel equivalent, kind of pushing and just wrapping the light around really softly, and just kind of raising the ambient a little bit more, and just having that soft kind of roll off on the shadows. And then we had 2400B kind of pushing through the window, creating this beautiful hard light on the ground, and like just kind of edging their bodies here and the chair and all that. And as you see, he goes like throughout the house. We had to push light through all these windows. So it was a huge setup, and it took a while, but I think it really paid off really nicely. And yeah, it was the challenge of this was that because it was such a slow stock, that we needed so much light to kind of push through, because the walls, like the internal ambient of the house was so low, because it was such a dark house, tiny windows, So we needed a lot of light pushing from outside, and that was just to, give that natural feeling to it and not feeling synthetic. We didn't want anything kind of like pushing from the inside, because then it just would start feeling really synthetic really quick. So we were pushing everything from outside, and I think it turned out really nicely. I don't think we played any negative fill, nothing like that. We just kind of let everything fall off really nicely. And we wanted originally it to be like a oneer, like following him from behind, but then I kind of suggested to the directors that maybe we follow him from the front as well, to have a cutting point if they wanted in the edit, because we had enough film. And it actually took us to this shot right here where it cuts to the front, and I'm really happy that we actually got this shot, because it felt like the audience was so detached from him, and it was more observant of a scene. And I feel like the scene really we needed to see him. We needed to see the main character and not just from behind, just because it is an emotional scene, and we needed that reaction. So they cut into this shot here, and it was exactly the same lighting. We didn't really change anything. I think I just bounced like 2 Titan tubes into like a piece of muzz, and it just kind of gave this beautiful like soft key light there, and you can see that the shadow roll off is so soft, and gave him this beautiful little eye light there. And that was basically it. It was just like 2400 bees shooting all through all these windows, and this beautiful little tiny Titan tube book light on his face, and it was really beautiful. And we actually used this thing called the ZG, because the whole film is handheld, right? So, and we wanted the whole film to be his perspective. Like, the world is about him and his perspective of the world. The whole idea of like composition in this film was like, we wanted the camera to feel like it's his perspective of the world. So we wanted everything to be at his level. So, and everything was like handheld and stuff like that. And I'm pretty short, but he's even shorter than me, and I couldn't, for all these tracking shots handheld, I wasn't able to like have it on my shoulder and like track with him, because I would be kind of looking down at him. So we got creative, and we used this thing called the CG, and Keslo camera was like super amazing, and they customized the back of the 416 that we were using, because usually the battery mounts on the side, but this way they actually created a custom plate that the battery could mount on the back so that it could actually fit on the CG. And we tracked him like all the way through this house with this CG thing. It was like kind of like a Steadicam type thing, but more handheld. It just gave that kind of fluid handheld look, but just didn't feel too shaky, and we were able to lower the camera nice and low to his perspective because we had that arm, so we were able to boom down. And I think it worked out really, really nicely. It turned out really, really great. And it was an incredible experience.